Hey everybody, this is Scott Gustafson with Vital MX. Today we're going to show you how to take the engine out of a motorcycle. This particular bike, brand new, KTM 250SX, is going to be our dream bike. And we're taking the motor out so that we can build it up and give it to one of you guys. So watch the video and you'll see how it's done. Taking apart a two-stroke is pretty simple, so you'll just need a couple tools here. You're going to need a ratchet, a couple of extensions. Sockets you'll need in this case, 19 millimeter, 10 millimeter, 8 millimeter, 13 millimeter. You need a Torx socket. This is a 45. You will need a 6 millimeter socket. You'll also need a 21 millimeter wrench to take the spark plug out, some wire cutters just to cut some of the zip ties, and a pair of pliers. Okay, there's one other tool I forgot to mention. You're going to need a spring puller. So we're going to start by pulling the springs off the pipe here. We're going to remove these two 8 millimeter bolts to remove our silencer. Now I'm going to remove the silencer. The pipe is held on by two 10 millimeter bolts here. Now I can remove the pipe. As long as I'm down here, I'm going to take springs off. Now I'm going to drain the coolant. There's an 8 millimeter bolt right here with a copper washer in the back. Okay, notice it doesn't come out yet. So I'm going to twist the radiator cap and release the pressure. I'm going to screw that bolt back in by hand once all the coolant is drained out of there. I'm going to remove the single long bolt that holds the seat on. It's an 8 millimeter. Remove the seat. The tank is held on by 5 8 millimeter bolts. And you can just remove this with a tiny magnet. There are 4 8 millimeter bolts that hold the shrouds to the radiator. Okay, I'm going to remove the fuel line from the petcock here. Now I'm going to pull the tank off the bike. I'll just spread the shrouds in the front and lift straight off. Now I'm going to remove the motor mounts off the top of the engine. I'll break them loose with a big ratchet here. And then I'm going to use my power tool. I'm going to remove these subframe bolts on both sides. The reason I'm doing this is I'm going to flip the subframe up so that I have access to the engine here. So again, I'm just going to crack these bolts loose with a long ratchet and use a power tool. I'm just going to loosen these top subframe bolts. They're going to stay in there, but I'm just going to loosen them. On the left side of the bike, I have to remove the airbox cover. This will simply pull off. Now I have access to the bolt in there. I'm going to loosen up this 6 millimeter clamp right here on the back of the carburetor. Now I'm just going to lift the subframe up. I'm just going to hinge it up. I'm just going to be careful not to interfere with any wires or anything like that. Now I'm just going to remove the carburetor from the engine. Again, a 6 millimeter here. And I'm just going to pull that off. I'm going to take out the spark plug now. Let's pop out the cap. That's a 21 millimeter. And we'll just unscrew it and remove it. It's not really in the way, but you don't want to hit it against something and crack the porcelain. So now I'm going to disconnect the stator wire here. So I'm going to follow the wire up. It's connected with a zip tie right here. I'll go ahead and clip that. And I follow it up here, and it's clipped again at the top. Now we have a little more access to it. We're just going to unclip this connector, like so, and we'll remove the wire. Now I'm going to take all the radiator hoses off the bike. These are all 6 millimeters. It's also going to make it easier if I pull this hose off too. We're going to take the clutch slave cylinder off. It's held on by 3 8mm bolts here. Now when you remove this, be careful not to push it or lose any of this. As long as I'm on this side, I'm going to remove the shift lever. Again, 8mm there. That comes right off. Okay, I'm going to take the chain off. Just remove the master link here. Now I need to take the engine guards off in order to access the swing arm bolt. So just clip the zip ties. Take off these 2 8mm bolts. On the right side of the bike, I'm going to remove the brake spring off the clutch cover, and I'm going to remove the master cylinder from the brake lever here. I'll also take the master cylinder off of the frame. Now we're just going to break loose these 2 13mm long bolts. And again, I'm going to use my power tool just to make it easy. We'll have to take the nut off the swing arm. It's a 19mm. Now I'm just going to push the swing arm bolt out. Now I'm just going to remove the carburetor away from the engine. Just make sure these vent lines don't get caught. Okay, now we're just going to pull the engine out of the frame. I'm going to move the swing arm back as far as it'll go. And I'm going to lift the motor out. So there you have it, motorcycle engine out of the motorcycle. It's not too difficult. As far as shipping goes, you can do it real inexpensively. I wouldn't just pack it up in a cardboard box, but you could do that, put that inside of a Rubbermaid container, or a plastic cooler works real well. They do make real expensive Pelican cases that you can put these into. Otherwise, this engine is going off to Millennium Technologies to get the treatment, and some lucky person out there is going to win it. It will be back in the bike. The bike will be running flawlessly. So get your name in for an entry, and maybe in a couple months this bike will be in your garage. We'll talk to you soon from Vital MX.